7 months ago, Jacob left the city. A simple office worker, exhausted by endless meetings, phone calls, and routine. He sold his apartment in the metropolis and bought a small house on the edge of the forest, far from the noise and dust. Everything was strangely peaceful, almost too much so. But that was exactly what he had hoped for. The chaos was behind him, and ahead lay tranquility and long walks through the woods, where he sought comfort in the quiet and simplicity of nature. One evening, as the autumn wind whispered of the approaching winter, Jacob noticed something unusual. Peering out from behind the trees, cautious and alert, was a small wolf pup. Its eyes were wide, its thin legs shifting anxiously in the snow as if afraid of being seen. Jacob froze, watching the little creature. The pup took a few hesitant steps forward before stopping again, as if weighing its options. It was clear that it was starving. Moving carefully, Jacob stepped back toward his house, retrieved a small piece of meat, and gently placed it on the ground. The pup tensed, watching him closely. Then, after a brief moment of hesitation, it snatched the food and disappeared into the darkness without looking back. Jacob stood there for a long time, gazing in the direction where the little figure had vanished, feeling a strange sense of anticipation. He never expected his life to change so profoundly. Over the following weeks, the pup returned again and again. At first, it remained wary, but Jacob noticed that each time, it seemed a little more comfortable. They never got too close, but the silent presence of this small creature became almost normal. Sometimes, Jacob would sit by the window and talk to it, as if speaking to an old friend. The wolf listened, tilting its head slightly as if pondering each word. Winter arrived swiftly. Snow blanketed the ground, turning everything white and still. Jacob hadn't seen his companion for weeks, and a deep worry settled in his heart. He feared the worst, that the pup had not survived. The thought lingered, casting a shadow over him. But then, one stormy night, as the wind howled outside his window, he suddenly saw a figure in the darkness. Standing just beyond the glass, in the night's shadow, was a fully grown wolf, strong and imposing, its eyes filled with unspoken wisdom. It didn't step closer, but it remained there, unmoving, as if silently reminding him of its presence. Jacob's heart pounded. The wolf had not forgotten him. The winter forest was dark and mysterious when Jacob finally set out for a long overdue walk. He moved through the snowy landscape, savoring the silence, when suddenly, something cracked in the woods. Dark figures emerged, surrounding him. A pack of wolves slowly advanced, their eyes gleaming in the pale moonlight. Panic gripped him, but he stood frozen, unable to move. Then, unexpectedly, one wolf stepped forward, positioning itself between Jacob and the others. It growled, baring its teeth, warning them to stay back. Jacob's breath caught in his throat. He recognized his old companion. The once small pup had grown into a formidable creature, yet its eyes remained the same, full of quiet connection. The pack leader didn't hesitate. It lunged forward, and a brutal fight erupted. Jacob could barely comprehend what was happening, but his instincts took over. He grabbed a branch and swung it wildly, trying to keep the wolves at bay. But it was too late. His wolf, the one who had once cowered in the shadows, now fought fiercely, its body already covered in deep wounds. The pack could not withstand the resistance, and when Jacob waved a burning stick, forcing them to retreat, they vanished into the dark woods, leaving their traitor behind to die. Jacob stood in the empty forest, his breath ragged. He looked down at the wounded wolf, who struggled to rise but collapsed again and again. "Don't leave me," he whispered as he knelt beside it. The wolf's eyes met his, deep and unwavering, free of fear, only calm acceptance. At that moment, Jacob understood that this encounter, this act of sacrifice, was something far greater than instinct. It was a lesson that would stay with him forever. The wolf lay still, its breathing shallow. Jacob held it gently, feeling the weight of an unspoken bond. As its breath grew fainter, time seemed to slow. Snow continued to fall around them, and for a brief moment, the world disappeared, leaving only this quiet, sorrowful scene. When the wolf finally slipped into darkness, Jacob buried it at the edge of his land. He couldn't fully articulate the depth of the lesson he had learned, but one thing was certain: his old worries about work, money, and meaningless concerns now felt utterly insignificant. He turned once more to the forest, to the world that had once felt so unfamiliar. But now, everything was different. The wolf had saved him, but in the end, he had been the one truly rescued, not just from a physical threat, but from the emptiness that had once consumed him. Now he understood that every moment in life was precious and that even in the most unexpected and brutal situations, the deepest connection and strength could be found. It was a lesson not just about survival, but about sacrifice and the ability to protect something greater than oneself. From that day on, Jacob never felt alone again.